Hey, what's doing YouTube? Alright, I'm going to take you guys through a glute and ham workout that I did just before the Sydney lockdowns that we're currently in at the moment. So this was going to be the start of what was going to be sort of like a bulking phase or strength phase. This was week one. But I'll just take you through how I approach my strength training sessions. So I start with the conventional deadlift here. So I work my way up from the bar all the way up to about 220 kilos for 2 reps. So I like to work up to a weight where I'm getting about 2 or 3 reps with still good technique, and then I back down to the weight that I want to sort of improve. So my goal is to get 200 kilos for about 6 to 8 reps, and this particular workout I started with 180 kilos for 2 sets of 8. So here's the 220. So this is where my technique starts to break down a bit. I've never lifted more than this weight, so I obviously want to improve this as well and try and get that 1 or 2 rep max up a little bit more. But that's how I like to go about my workout, and the reason why I do that is stress the nervous system with a really heavy weight with good form before I go into my working set. So this was my first working set. I got 8 reps with 180 kilos, so my best is 9 reps when I was in prep with 180 kilos. So I've definitely built a lot of strength since then. This was like my first week of a cycle, my off-season cycle. So look, I was going to get a lot stronger than this, but unfortunately we're locked down in Sydney, so might not get to do an off-season cycle this year. But and like I said in the video before, in this video, that my goal is 200 for about 6 to 8 reps. So the best I've done with 200 kilos is 5 reps. So if I was getting 8 reps by the end of this cycle with 200 kilos, that would be a big improvement. So the goal would have been to go 185 the next week for about, aiming for 2 sets of 8 again. But unfortunately we're locked down, so won't be able to do that. We'll have to wait until maybe prep. But then once I've done that, the next exercise I like to go to is a hip thrust. So this is the Nautilus glute drive, which is my favourite hip thrust. I've got a really good one at Paddo Performance. So I aim mostly for like 12 to 15 reps with this exercise. This is more like moving into more hypertrophy, and this I find is the best exercise for glutes in the shortened range. Really trying to squeeze the glutes at the top of the movement. You're trying to keep your chin down, keep your core tight, so you're not arching through the lower back, and just think about driving those glutes up and squeezing at the top. So this was my last set. I think we've got 12, another 12 to 15 decent reps. And I also like to get there's a bit of hamstring work in this movement as well. So this is one of my favourites for glutes, and also gets my hamstrings ready for what's to come for the rest of the workout. So as you can see, the last few reps are not the best, and that's how I kind of know that the set's pretty much wrapped up. Then my go-to for hamstrings is a seated leg curl. So if I was working more hypertrophy in this workout, I normally start with the seated hamstring curl and finish with deadlifts, but because this workout was more for strength, the hamstring work was towards the end of the workout. But with this, I like to keep the form as tight as possible, trying to keep my hips still as much as possible, trying to push away from the handles, if that makes sense, and just try and make sure that the hamstrings are doing all the work. This is the best one I find for isolating hamstrings. And I was supersetting that with some very light RDLs, I guess you can, dumbbell RDLs, just trying to get a big stretch on the hamstrings. not really focusing on progressive overload with this, just trying to get a nice stretch and stretch out those hamstrings, and I'm supersetting this with the leg extension as well. So with this, I'm just basically trying to think about keeping my legs as straight as possible, a little bit of a slight bend in the knees, and trying to think about pushing my hips back, and I get a really big stretch right behind the knee with this exercise. My hamstrings are not as flexible as I'd like them to be, but that's why I threw this exercise in. And then the last exercise is hyperextension, a 45-degree hyperextension. This I find is a great way to finish both the glutes and hamstrings off. I'm not the best at this movement, I need to improve, and what I'm trying to do is trying to hold the contracted position as long as possible and really try and strengthen those shortened fibres. You're not going to get a lot of tension at the lengthen range. There is a bit, but it's mostly when you contract up the top is where you're doing the most work. But that was my glute and hamstring workout. Unfortunately now we're in lockdown, so I'm going to have to put off any sort of training for a few weeks, but I'll catch you guys again soon.